that negotiation really fell apart to the point where I considered leaving, I considered starting my own business. I can't take over this role because I'm not like her. My leadership style is definitely different than hers. Getting real clarity about what each other needed in the financial negotiation. Because it got...
Today's guest is Emma Tupper, an EO Chicago member and CEO of Moxie Media, a woman-founded political communications firm specializing in direct mail for progressive campaigns. Over 15 years, Emma rose from an entry-level role to business owner and CEO, navigating a complex succession journey that nearly saw her walk away. Today, she leads the firm while raising 2 young children and brings a calm, thoughtful approach to leadership. Let's welcome Emma Tupper.
This episode is sponsored by Linh Podetti, entrepreneur, speaker, EO member, and author of 360 Degrees Success. Many founders build successful businesses, but along the way, they lose their relationships, health, or sense of self. With Linh, you can create 360-degree success through business freedom, meaningful relationships, and intentional living. So success doesn't just look good on paper or social media, but actually feels aligned in everyday life. You don't have to choose between business growth and personal fulfillment. Grab the 360-Degree Success book on Amazon, available on audio, Kindle, and paperback.
Welcome to the show, Emma. So great to see you again.
Great to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting topic, right? Because often we meet entrepreneurs who start their own business, but you went through a different route. So I'm so excited to learn more about that, because as a business owner, we're always interested to know like what's going to happen next, who's going to take over, what's our next phase. So this is such an interesting topic. But before we talk about that, I would love to learn a little bit about your upbringing and, what was life like and how were you shaped into the leader that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, what a great question. I would say I sort of joke that I feel like a reluctant entrepreneur. Like this is never anything that I envisioned for myself. I grew up in Seattle, Washington in the United States, and my mom worked in politics. And so I was sort of around politics and campaigns for a long time. And it was something I sort of fell into, in sort of a gap year. I worked on a couple of campaigns. I sort of defaulted to it in the Great Recession when I needed work, and it was sort of the industry I knew really well. And then eventually I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to work in politics. I then reconnected with my now business partner, and joined Moxie Media, which our company does political direct mail marketing and branding for different campaigns and candidates across the country. And I just sort of thought it was like a cycle gig. I was like a low level employee, sort of a support for Lisa McLean, my business partner. And, I was like, every cycle, I was like, oh, what am I going to do when I grow up? I don't know what this will look like. And, eventually became an owner, a partner. And then we have now transitioned, me taking over the role of CEO, and I'm in my second year. So I don't know, it's not something that I ever really set out to do, and certainly not the sort of working on the business stuff that is now really interesting to me, and I feel like growing as a leader has been really exciting in this.
Yeah. So was your mum happy that you kind of left but came back around politics still?
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels like something that is like I come by naturally. I think growing up in it and really having, even just like an understanding that it is a job you can have and that there's this, industry out there. And I really, in politics and campaigns, I started as a field organizer, which is like the person that goes out and talks to voters, on the doors or on the phone. It's a very grueling job. And it's like driven by idealism. And so I really started from that place of like, I want to go change the world. And there's a part of me that still is, I'm so happy that I get to work in a business that has impact in sort of a big sense, in people's lives.
Mm. Thinking now about politics and business, I wonder if you can see anything that's similar, or any lessons that you can take from maybe watching other politicians or your mum or anything in there versus you now being an entrepreneur.
I think of a campaign as like a startup in so many ways, because you have to sort of, especially for first-time candidates, like you're creating something out of nothing, and it is like the sort of mythology of the candidate, like the story that you're telling, um, and it is also just the infrastructure, not just the stuff that people see in a campaign is like a very short window, and there can be months or years leading up to that of compliance and fundraising and reporting, and all of that stuff needs to be built up over time, and it is like this massive adrenaline rush until you get to election day, and it's a pass or fail, and so I think that there's a lot. There's a lot I think I've learned about sort of getting a lot of stuff done in a really short window under extremely high pressure, and also resilience, like just waking up, getting it done, focusing on what needs to happen, um, and win or lose, knowing that like there's a future. There's having done this now for um, 16 years. There's a loss doesn't necessarily mean the end of the road, and so I think that resilience, that mental resilience, has been maybe the biggest lesson that's helped me in my leadership today.
So with this type of business, obviously there's always campaigns happening all the time. Is it I guess, safe business to have because there's always work to be done? Is it a certainty that you've got those contracts? Or?
It's actually really, it's the business structure is I think actually quite challenging, because our biggest elections are every 2 years. So and it's even years. So 2026, November of 2026 is sort of like 70% of our revenue comes in November. So we have to live on a line of credit for a year and a half ish, or and the off year, the odd year work is really minimal because there aren't that many big elections happening across the country. So it's extremely competitive. So often our goal is to like break even through an odd year, and then coast on our line of credit until we get to November, pay everything off, start all over again. And there's some there's some recurring business that are just clients we've had for years and years and years. But people leave positions frequently. The people doing the work in campaigns are very young, and they're sort of moving around in their own careers. And so the people doing the hiring often change jobs. We have to meet the new person. We have to pitch them again. Or we'll lose competitive races. The seat is open again. We have to like find another candidate, another client. It's so I feel like every 2 years we're sort of facing down, how are we going to put the puzzle pieces together again?
Right. And considering you are like I guess, a marketing agency, but niching in this field, has there been a time where you're, tempted to maybe serve other non-politicians, like expand it to other markets?
Yeah, I think there's some sort of easy ways we do that in terms of like there are like nonprofit organizations that are doing advocacy work. So it's not necessarily campaigns and it's not wedded to a campaign cycle, but they need some kind of marketing. And so that is sort of one way we kind of fill the gap. And we think about corporate marketing. It's something that, I think generally would need to feel really values aligned for our team. So that can be sort of the tension that we're holding. And I think it's actually the tension of like running a political business because like the work we're trying to do is transformational, right? Like we're trying to change the world and there's a transaction happening and that can feel sort of difficult to navigate. With clients in the world and also with our team.
Wow, that's really interesting. And then, in politics, it seems like it's a me versus you or the two parties. So do you only get to work with one party because you're siding with them, I guess, in a sense? Others wouldn't want to work with you. Is that the limitation as well?
Yeah. So we only work with Democrats. And even within the Democratic Party, I don't know how much you follow U.S. politics, but there's a sort of
Not really.
a fracturing of the Democratic Party happening. Are you, left progressive versus moderate Democrat? That is sort of a battle taking place currently in our politics. And so, sort of where you fall in that spectrum can also be limiting in terms of the types of opportunities that are available to us.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your journey, how you went from an employee to now a business partner with Lisa.
So when I started, it was a smaller company. The company was founded in Seattle where I grew up. When I joined Moxie, it was Lisa and Henry. So they're my business partners now. Lisa did the political accounts focused work. Henry did all the back end production work, working with our printers and our mail houses. So it was the three of us in that cycle. I think we added some like contract people. I left, went to go work at Planned Parenthood, which was one of my dream jobs. It was a great experience, but I really missed the sort of dynamic work that we get to do. What's fun to me about the work at Moxie is within the span of an hour, I'm touching, 5 different projects, and that really, gets my brain going. So I came back again. I was like, okay, this will be good for this year, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. And it just kept happening until about, I would say, 2016, where I felt, the firm had grown. We brought on another partner. We were starting to expand. We were doing more and more national focused work. It wasn't just Washington State or Seattle focused. So we were kind of getting more opportunities. The business was growing. And then after the 2018 cycle, so in 2019, I became a partner and an owner. And that, there was sort of a lead up to that. That was, I think, Lisa really feeling like she wanted, up until that point, people had been partners in name only. And I think she really wanted partners with skin in the game, with sort of real interest and investment in the success of the business. I think at that point, I'm doing like quick math. She'd probably been running the company on her own for almost 2 decades, or about 2 decades. So I think she felt lonely and really wanted, some people who could work alongside her. And I think she wanted to sort of spread the, the financial reward as well. Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, I thought you finished. I was going to ask you the next question anyway. So, when Lisa was looking for that partner, was it something that you could bring in complementary to you? Are you very different to the way she thinks as well? Often people might feel like they need an integrator, but in this case, she's getting you to be a partner. Yeah.
Yeah. All of this happened before Lisa joined EO in 2018. And so we were sort of starting to get into it and get real learnings out of it. But we had not discovered EOS at that point. I think Lisa and I are probably more. I don't know that we have distinctly complementary or sorry, just sort of very different approaches. I think we do a really good job of coming to the table with new ideas, being sounding boards for one another, really hearing feedback. And so I feel like it's a nice collaboration and teamwork with her, built on a lot of trust. And so I think what she saw in me is sort of a successor, an opportunity for someone to really take it forward into the next level.
Yeah. And was it something that you guys discussed early on as this is the plan, and then we'll work towards that plan where you hit certain targets, and then and is it something that you then have an opportunity to buy in? Like, how did that arrangement?
Yeah, and it happened in stages. So, I mean, initially, I think because the sort of partner title was really in name only, that was sort of an expectation that if I sort of continued to work at Moxie, continued to build my own book of business, that would be a role, like a title that I would get eventually. And those conversations were not tied to any sort of discussion about equity. We ultimately got to a place, I think Lisa got to a place where she was like, I actually want my partners to be invested, and I want people who are called partners at Moxie to, also be equity partners. And I think that was a shift for her. We had an opportunity to buy in 2019. And then the sort of agreement was to, every couple of years have another negotiation. In 22, heading into the 22 cycle, that negotiation really fell apart to the point where, I considered leaving. I considered starting my own business. I considered leaving for another business. I really thought about. I started wrapping my head around the idea that it wasn't going to work out. We ended up bringing in an executive coach that worked with us together and with us independently. And it was we spent a year working on this relationship and the repair. And ultimately, I think getting real clarity about what each other needed in the financial negotiation. Because it got to the valuation was just nothing that I couldn't have afforded it. I couldn't have afforded to buy in at the level that, it was, in theory valued at. And I think Lisa understood, that made sense to her. We had to negotiate around her sort of bottom line was that she wanted to be respected as someone who built this business up over 20 plus years, and that the longevity and the brand has real value to it, and it's not something she wants to give away, and that she really wanted to be respected as someone who founded this company. It took me a long time to wrap my head around that. And I actually think considering starting my own company helped me understand the value, right? Like starting down that path of like, okay, well, what would this look like? How would I do it? You realize like this thing has been going for 2 decades. Like, there is certainly value in it. And for me, it was like there were a couple things. I didn't want to buy into this and for her to just disappear. That felt sort of unfair to me. And um, I wanted some acknowledgement of all of the sweat equity that I had put into the company. That at that point, I'd been there for so long and I had really invested so much in sort of taking it to the next level with Lisa that I sort of so that was sort of a little inside look into our negotiation.
Yeah, oh, I love that. And I appreciate your vulnerability. And I can just see the resemblance of a marriage, because
Yes.
often two partners are like feeling like, I've given in so much, but it's just the miscommunication or that lack of clarity, like you said. And then, so through the executive coaching, you're able to understand yourself and what you want. And it's good that you both came on and go, well, this relationship is important. And I guess a bit of compromising, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think we both got to a place of like, well, the outcome should be that both of us are not super happy with the outcome.
Ah,
That
good point. Yeah,
like
yeah.
that will be an indication of us having done this well. Is that we're both sort of giving a little bit more than we would feel comfortable with.
Mm. And now that you became partner and you've, created that fair arrangement, were there also, I guess, whether they call it shareholder agreement or some sort of constitution, just things that allow you to spell out everything before things happen?
Yeah. So we've always had a shareholder agreement, which has had sort of, you know, different, at X ownership, Lisa retains these rights. At Y ownership, that goes away. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, clarity that we've signed around kind of how the relationship will work and what would happen if things fall apart.
Yeah, amazing. Now, I run my own business, and if I was looking out for that person, that Emma, what should I be looking out for? If you were to assess your own traits and qualities that Lisa saw, I would love for you to describe that.
I think, it'd be interesting to ask her this question. I'd be curious, but I think, uh, the other aspect, I think, of the negotiation for Lisa was, which I think is maybe slightly different than the typical business owner looking for an exit, is she was able to give a little bit on the money piece because legacy was really important to her. This business surviving her was important. So, I think what she wanted was someone that she could see as a leader in the business and someone who cared a lot about the success. And so I mean, even going back to 2018 when she started at EO, she was sort of opening the curtain a little bit into, you know, ideas around how businesses run and business strategy. And it's not something that coming up in campaigns you are trained to do. And I think EO was a crash course for Lisa as well in how to run a business, which she had been doing for 18 years at that point. Um, you know, so I think I was really open and excited and eager to learn that stuff. Whereas I think some of the other people at that time were kind of like, I'm doing my work. Stop talking to me about this. And so I think I had an openness to and curiosity that she appreciated. I think we were able to learn a lot from each other about kind of how we wanted the business to evolve and grow. And I think we also had a lot of alignment on like the kinds of lives we wanted to live, which is it. We also have in the political industry there's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of people who just kind of go as fast and hard as they can. And I think Lisa and I are both similar in that we want to enjoy our families, prioritize a lovely life that we, get to enjoy. And so that I think was also a key ingredient for us.
Yeah, you make a really good point because it's not just about the skill set that person has or the experience. It's actually even about the pace of how you operate. Like it's almost like a dance. I feel like if someone's just dancing too fast, they'll step on the other person, but it has to flow. And so it sounds like it flows. I want to deep dive a little bit when you said a good leader. Like what does a good leader mean for you at the time, or for what Lisa saw?
Gosh, I think my leadership style is definitely different than hers. She is, I would say, like a very quintessential founder. Really like, mile a minute, coming up with new ideas, always trying to like see around the corner. And really sort of, driving change, like really pushing people. I think trying to absorb more of that, as I take the lead, because I do think that that's really important in terms of longevity and scaling. And at the same time, I think I am more collaborative and consensus driven. I think my leadership has been described as a little more quiet than hers. um, and for a long time, I felt a bit of an imposter syndrome about that. Like, I can't take over this role because I'm not like her. Um, and it took a lot of, work to realize that, both are effective, and maybe this is what is needed at this time in Moxie's life.
Yeah, amazing. So then now, do you have separate roles? Like, how do you ensure that, I guess, you stick to your lane, she's there, and yeah, and then you can, I guess, continue to just enjoy your own leadership styles in your own lane?
Yeah, so she's basically out of the business, and so I'd say her role is really still as a mentor and an advisor to me. I mean, we still talk. I mean, text or chat or talk very frequently, once a day, once every other day. And it's me just like sharing stuff with her or her popping in with ideas, but never in a like, you know, um, more just like, hey, I thought of this idea. You should consider it. Um, we run EOS now. I'm in the visionary role, and then we found a great colleague to step up as an integrator. And so Lisa is very present in my life. She's much less present in the lives of my colleagues, which I think is beneficial for everybody. I went on maternity leave earlier this year, and I think she was much more involved, and that got tricky for everybody. But yeah, I think we're still working on it, honestly, but it's been fairly seamless.
Yeah, amazing. So then what's your own journey with EO? Like when did you join as well?
Yeah, so I started in an exec forum in Seattle, in 2021. It was still like a pandemic adjacent because I got trained virtually and we were sort of masking for a while, if I can remember. And that was a really great experience. Just being around people who were, kind of dealing with their own visionaries, and it felt like a great experience and opportunity to have that peer support. in ways that I didn't have at the firm and nobody else in my life understood. So that was a really great experience. I ended up leaving Seattle, moving to Chicago, and at that point also became majority shareholder at Moxie. And that's when this transition happened. So at that point, we realized, oh, you could like become an actual member. So I interviewed in Chicago. I think I joined uh, sometime in 2025. I can't even remember. I quickly got pregnant after I joined. And so my journey is still like really, I feel like I'm still dipping my toes in because I, was just dealing with pregnancy and the sort of physical challenges of that. And then early postpartum. My daughter is now 7 months old. So I feel like I'm just starting to like get back out there.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so for those who are listening, the executive program is for your second in charge or your COO, someone like that, to also get the support of the forum that members get. So in order to have a family and also run the business, are you working from home? Like, how have you adjusted your working arrangement?
Yeah, so I work from home. And we, after the pandemic, went fully remote. We had been located in Seattle for the full lifespan of Moxie at that point, and then went nationally distributed, which was a great experience in terms of our ability to recruit great new talent. So I work from home, and it's been a really awesome experience. Just in terms of the flexibility and being a mom.
Yeah. Was it a big change for your industry? Like before, was it very in person? Everyone needs to see everyone. And did everyone shift to online? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at that point, I was probably on the road at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, pitching, doing sales in person, going to in person retreats, doing, photo shoots. That has really slowed down. So most people do their pitches virtually, which is fantastic. It's actually, the only downside is actually I think it's much easier to do a pitch in person. It just feels nicer. But the plus is just not having to do that grueling travel. And yeah, most calls are video calls now, whereas before they were, phone conferences. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that, going virtual has really shifted about the industry.
Interesting. Actually, I wanted to ask a little bit about the exec program because yeah, we don't often talk about it in this podcast, but maybe someone's listening and have a second in charge. What is it like in your chapter? What is a program like?
I don't actually know in the Chicago chapter. I know there is an exec. I believe there's an exec program. In Seattle, it was, it was a forum. So, there were 7 of us. It was a great experience and really set up just like forum for members. We also had some access to like learning opportunities, although not as much as members, obviously. I think the stuff that I got the most value out of was the like accelerator training days. I can't even remember what those are called. So the like
Yeah, the scale based on the scaling up, cash day, people day, etc.
yes,
Yep.
yeah. That was sort of actually the first stuff that I did at Mox, even before I joined or at EO, before I joined a forum, was the accelerator trainings, and those were really I don't know, extremely useful as someone just trying to learn how to do the on the business stuff.
Yeah. So now that you've been in EO for a while, or previously an executive, and you've been at Moxie for a while, I guess what's the future? What's the next 5-10 years that you can see for yourself?
We have an incredible team. And the work we're doing is I think more exciting than it's ever been, and so that it's like thrilling. I hope that we will continue to grow, and do bigger and bigger, more impactful work. And so my goal is for the company to really become, a go-to firm for people in extremely competitive statewide races across the country. So that, and to do that work with candidates that are inspiring, that are, sharing our vision of the kind of world that we want to leave for our kids.
Amazing. And what's your own personal legacy? Like, what do you want to be remembered for?
So it's a really good question. I don't know. It's funny to think about, because I think for so long I sort of thought of like, this work is really hard. I want to sort of build my wealth as fast as I can, so I can get out of it as quickly as possible and like retire early. Since I have 2 daughters now, one is almost 3 and one is 7 months. I think, especially with the birth of my second girl, that mindset has really shifted for me from one, I think, of more ambition and, just wanting to leave a bigger mark. So I think of, legacy in terms of like the work that we're able to do in politics, but also a legacy of running a business where people are able to grow their own families and build lives that they love, and to sort of mentor the people that I really love working with into becoming leaders in their own right. And so that is really gratifying to me as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that as we mature up, we have more wisdom in life, because I too also just wanted to make money and be rich because of business. But, and when you find that why, and that's how you can stay motivated and keep on going. But let's just say 10 years from now and your daughters can actually speak back to you and can hear you, what do you want them to be saying about you or observed about you?
Hope they are proud of, their mom running a extremely successful business, and one that is really focused on, change and impacts. And I hope that they, are really proud of the work that the company does.
Well, thank you so much, Emma. At least now you've got a video soon to show them one day when they're ready to watch and learn more about their mum and politics. But thank you so much for the opportunity to learn more about politics and, a business that works in that space. It is definitely my first time. But how do people connect with you? Where do you hang out online?
LinkedIn is the easiest place to find me. And Moxie's LinkedIn page as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. I really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you.